Hati was lucky. Sick and hungry, she wouldn't have survived long on her own in the bombed ruins. But now she's vaccinated and has enough to eat. And she has Alaa. He's taking her over to her new playmates.
I couldn't live without my cats. They're even with me when I sleep.
Welcome to Alaa's animal shelter. He's the cat rescuer from Idlib in Syria. Because in war, not all victims are human. But not everyone takes kindly to Alaa's passion for helping cats. The cages and cat carriers are ready, and they've packed a bit of food. It's time to head out. Alaa is a professional paramedic and helps people in need too. He's rescued dozens of war victims from burning buildings and debris. But today, he's looking for animals. He and his helpers are going to the outskirts of Idlib, one of the last areas of Syria still in the hands of the rebels. Alaa got a tip. Here in the district of Jabal Azavia, where there's hardly a building left standing, stray animals are said to be wandering through the ruins. Alaa sets up a few cages and puts some food in them. And the trick works. Most of the cats here were left on their own when their owners had to flee. A few were already stray, but have been struggling to find food now without any people around. Alaa wouldn't even consider just abandoning them to their fate.
I've loved animals for as long as I can remember. I got that from my father and grandfather, who had big hearts for cats and for animals in general. Now some 400 cats live on the property, but there are a few more going in and out. Our doors are always open to them. Some only come here when they're hungry.
On their ride through the desolated streets, Alaa and his team also chance upon a dog. He seems very shy. It's probably been a while since he last saw a person. First, he gets a little something to eat. And a little affection. Alaa is concerned about a wound on the dog's snout. But first things first, in he goes into the cage. Alaa's van has filled up with over a dozen cats and dogs, and now it's time to head back to the animal shelter. The animal rescuers set the cages down right in the courtyard. The other cats are supposed to welcome the newcomers and help them feel more at ease. Alaa's team does their job out of conviction, just like he does. And Hamid even lives here. Alaa can't afford to pay Hamid a salary, but he gives him a bit of pocket money.
I really enjoy working here. It's a nice change, and we're doing good deeds too. We catch the cats and bring them here, and it's not like we're trapping them. We feed them and treat them when they're sick. And if they want to take off and leave us, we don't stop them.
The animal shelter in Idlib is not Alaa's first one. He's originally from the former rebel stronghold Aleppo. Government troops spent 4 years trying to conquer Aleppo, and in 2016 they finally managed to completely surround the city, and Aleppo fell. One of Alaa's colleagues filmed this footage back then. It shows him working as a paramedic in Aleppo. He would drive his ambulance through the war-torn streets, but help would come too late for some. Allah realized that they were only saving human victims, while animals were left to fend for themselves. So he took the animals home with him, and once there were too many of them, he ended up opening his own first animal shelter in Aleppo in 2015. Word spread fast about Alaa's shelter, and an increasing number of Syrians fleeing the country would drop off their dog or cat there. He still regularly sends some of them photos of their pets. A year later, Alaa's neighborhood in Aleppo was bombed. His shelter was hit too, and a few animals died. Should he stay put or leave? Nearly all Alaa's friends tried to escape Syria, but he didn't want to abandon his animals. They'd become his new friends, he said. Back then, Alaa filmed a lot of videos with his phone, and he shows the clips to his helper, Hamid.
Look at the cats running for their lives. They're rushing into the building. A grenade hit back there. The shooting was so intense, we couldn't go out and save them for 4 days.
In the end, Alaa left Aleppo and started afresh in Idlib, and he managed to get nearly all his animals out of the besieged city. It's time to feed the cats in Alaa's new shelter in Idlib. The meat comes from restaurants throughout the city. They give Alaa their leftovers for his animals. Alaa knows them all by name. Since creating a website and Facebook page, he receives donations even from abroad. But it's not always easy to take good care of so many animals.
Many of my friends support me, sometimes giving me money to cover my expenses. And every donation counts. Even if we end up mixing a bit of rice, peas, or other veggies into the food, the more food, the better. Then I can help feed more cats.
There are 4 million people living in and around Idlib. Many fled here from other regions of Syria, and 3/4 of them rely on humanitarian aid. Some don't take kindly to Alaa's focus on saving animals when there's so much human suffering.
People are more important than animals. We should try to take care of all the children, the orphans who lost their parents in the war. What good are cats, for heaven's sake? We live in a war zone, so there are definitely more important things.
Cats are living beings too, and they have needs. And a lot of pets have lost their caretakers now. For me, humanity also means not forgetting the animals.
I try to explain what I do, and we really ought to all see taking care of animals as our moral obligation, because they're part of God's creation, just like us. And that's why our faith calls on us to help them, and especially cats and dogs, because they're our companions.
This is Alaa's home. He has 2 sons, but his days are often so long that he hardly has time for them. Moments like these are precious for his family.
What'd you do yesterday? Probably played on your phone a bunch again. Did you bring back some new cats again, Dad? Of course. We always do. And you're welcome to tag along again sometime. Aren't you going to finish? I'm full.
Waking up surrounded by ruins is a sad reality for Alaa's sons, but they're proud of their father. And even books have been published about Alaa, including a children's book. Alaa is sorry to have so little time for his sons. But as a treat, his younger boy has been allowed to go out and get them both an ice cream.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaa receives a phone call about a dog that's been hit by grenade shrapnel. He assures her that he's on his way. It's a real emergency, and word has gotten around in Idlib that Alaa is ready to help in a crisis like this. The dog is indeed in critical condition. His front left paw is seriously injured.
The shrapnel is still inside.
Alaa has the impression the dog even briefly lost consciousness from being in so much pain. The veterinarian accompanying Alaa makes a snap decision to amputate the dog's leg. It's likely the only way for him to survive. In his shelter, Alaa has also made space for a veterinary clinic, and all the cats get a checkup every month.
There's barely any medicine for animals here, so we sometimes use medications meant for people. That's much less effective, of course. And we often can't give them the help we'd like to. But it's nearly impossible to get animal medicine delivered here from abroad.
But even if it's hard, Alaa wouldn't even consider abandoning the animals.
I will surely spend my whole life living in places plagued by hardships, natural disasters, and violence, to help people, but also to be there for the animals. Because whenever people are on the run, animals get left behind, and they deserve our support.